Burnout doesn't always look like collapse. Most of the time, it shows up while your life is still functioning. You're still doing your job, you're still showing up for the people who rely on you, your routines still work, your calendar still makes sense. So from the outside, there's no obvious reason to be concerned. And that's part of what makes this so difficult to name. Nothing is clearly broken, but something feels off. You're tired in a way that sleep doesn't seem to fix, and you're not exhausted in this dramatic sense. You're just worn thin. You move through your days normally, but there's less margin inside you than there used to be. Things that once felt like you could manage them well now require you to have more effort. Moments that should feel satisfying just land flat. And you keep going because that's what you know how to do, but the internal cost keeps rising. This is the quiet burnout that most people miss. It doesn't announce itself loudly. There's no single moment you can point to and say, like, this is where it happened. It develops slowly in people who are responsible, who are faithful, who are capable, people who don't fall apart under pressure, but just adapt to the pressure. Quiet burnout forms when endurance becomes this long-term posture instead of just a temporary response. So at first, it looks like strength. You rise to the occasion. You take on more because you can. You become the person others rely on when things matter. And that adaptation is not a flaw. It's just competence. It's maturity. And oftentimes it's necessary. But when there's no season where anything gets set down, that adaptation starts to take a toll. So you stay alert even when nothing urgent is happening. Your nervous system doesn't fully relax. You wake up and you're already engaged. You go to bed and you're still carrying the day inside your body. And rest becomes lighter and it's not as restorative as it used to be. And you're present, but you're not settled. Quiet burnout doesn't make you stop caring. It just narrows your capacity to feel. So you still value alignment, you still want to be faithful, you still want to for your work and your life to matter. What changes is access. Your emotional range shrinks. So joy feels muted. It's not absent, it's just harder to reach it. And that can be unsettling, especially if your faith has taught you to expect gratitude and peace as these markers of spiritual health. And when they don't show up naturally, the question often turns inward. So you wonder if something in you has gone dull, if you've lost sensitivity, if you should be doing something differently. But quiet burnout is not a spiritual failure. It's the result of sustained self-containment. It's a result of you staying composed for long stretches of time without enough space to process what you're carrying. And this is especially common in people others depend on. So if you're the one who keeps things moving, you don't always get the luxury of slowing down when something feels heavy. You tell yourself, I'll deal with it later. You push it aside because other things need attention. And over time, that habit becomes automatic. You manage yourself instead of listening to yourself. So eventually, burnout doesn't show up as overwhelm. It just shows up as heaviness. Everything feels heavier than it should. Decisions take way more energy. Small frustrations tend to linger a little bit longer. And so you may start questioning your motivation and you start to wonder why things that once energized you feel draining. But what's happening is not a lack of discipline, it's not a lack of commitment, it's just accumulation. Burnout builds when responsibility outpaces your relief. When you're managing outcomes without enough space to really think through the emotional and spiritual cost of managing those things. Discipline and competence can carry you a long way under those conditions. The problem is they can't heal what's underneath. Faith can quietly become part of the problem if you're not careful. You still trust God, you still believe He's present, but faith, there's a subtle shift into endurance. You stop asking to be carried and you start assuming that being faithful means staying strong. So prayer becomes quieter and less expectant. And not because you don't believe, but because you're used to handling things. That kind of faith will keep you functioning. It just doesn't always keep you formed. God doesn't measure your faithfulness by how long you can endure without relief. Scripture is full of people who came to him tired and confused and worn down. And they weren't corrected for their fatigue. They were met with presence. Quiet burnout is often a signal that you've been faithful in a season that required more from you than it gave back. That doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It just means that the season took a toll. And what's dangerous about quiet burnout is that it's easy to ignore. Because you're still functioning, you assume you should be fine. Because others rely on you, you keep showing up. And because nothing has collapsed, you delay paying attention to the weight you're carrying. But burnout doesn't resolve itself through continued endurance. It resolves through honesty and recalibration. And it's not this dramatic honesty, it's just simple honesty. It's naming the things that feel heavy even when you can't fully explain why they're heavy. And acknowledge that you're tired in a way that rest alone hasn't touched yet. And letting that be true without immediately trying to fix it. See, God is not asking you to power through this. He isn't disappointed by your fatigue. He's not waiting for you to prove your strength. Quiet burnout is often the place where he invites you to stop carrying everything alone. A reorientation usually begins here, and not with some major life overhaul, not with quitting your responsibilities, but just with small acts of permission. The permission to slow the internal pace you're running at. Permission to notice what's been costing you more than you realized. Quiet burnout does not mean you're weak. It just means you've been strong for a long time. And strength without relief eventually has to be shared. Now, you don't need to solve this immediately. You don't need to manufacture clarity. You don't need to manufacture motivation. You don't need to pressure yourself into gratitude or peace. A guarded system doesn't respond to pressure. It just responds to safety. And safety grows when you stop accusing yourself of being broken and start listening to what your fatigue is trying to tell you. Burnout isn't always a sign to stop everything. Sometimes it's an invitation to stop doing everything alone. If this feels familiar, you're not behind, you're not failing, you're waking up to the cost of carrying responsibility without enough support. And that awareness is not a problem. It's the beginning of something more sustainable. If you want to keep walking this out with me, I write one weekly letter for people who are tired in a deeper way. You can find it in the description below.